out there in VIP Kid Land. This is Teacher Christy back again with another topic of the day. Hey, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, go ahead, hit like and subscribe. My goal is to bring you new topics, new ideas, new thoughts as we go along in our adventure. Not just to give you, big chunks of information, but to maybe provide some ongoing discussion or ideas or thoughts. So if you're interested, you guys want to hear it, I'll keep talking. I like to talk. It's a good thing. It's the only thing I'm good at, and at least I get paid for it. Okay, so moving on. I've had a rash of new students to VIP Kid that are in classes that they are way over their heads. And as a teacher, that just makes me cringe. I just had a student, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you're placed way too high. And chances are you will never be dropped back. Chances are high that you'll never be dropped a level in order for you to be successful. So the entire time this child's going to be in VIP Kid, it is likely that they're going to be struggling, because we all know that if you don't have the fundamentals, if you don't have the foundation, it's very hard to move on systematically. It generally will be difficult for you all the way through. Like math, if you don't get a specific function in math, then all other math is going to be hard. That's true with languages. And so I'm looking at these kids and I'm just like, oh. I think in the thousands and thousands of kids that I've taught, I've successfully convinced a parent to hold a kid back twice. Usually parents will not put their kid in a lower level if it proves too hard for them. And I think that's a pride thing, and I can kind of understand that. They think if they just work harder. But if you've missed key components, you really can't work hard enough to overcome that. And so I was reflecting back on a piece that I had read in the forum when I was a new teacher about this topic. And she had said, oh, new teachers, stop placing students so high in trial classes. And I remember looking at it going, I don't place them too high. These are great students. And so I took a moment thinking about what she was saying, and she was talking about the same thing. And I looked back at the trial placements that I'd made, in that first month. And now I realize those are way too high of a placement for those students. There's a couple reasons I think that new teachers, at least I rated kids higher than they probably should have been. One, I'm super impressed with them. Super impressed. I mean, you get this 5-year-old that can talk to you, you're just way impressed. You're like, oh my gosh, he must be at a high level. And so we want to put them in the higher level because we're impressed. And it takes some experience to not respond to that. Two, a lot of our kids come with very, very good academic skills. So I had a level 5 student who could read perfectly, diction exceptional. I asked her, what did you do today? And she could not answer my question. She could not answer beyond, how are you? There was no amount of conversation that this child could have, and it didn't have the vocabulary out of context to talk. And at level 5, I'm not sure how we compensate for that. So a lot of times our kids come in with phenomenal academic skills, but they can't speak, they can't converse. That's why they're getting a one-on-one teacher. Training centers teach them to memorize information. They can be very academically advanced and not be able to talk to you. And that's pretty common with our higher level students. Also, they can preview the slides. So a lot of times what parents will do in trials and in other classes is they'll go through the slides with the kids. And you'll see that's why the kids know the slides, is they'll have memorized them, which works if that parent is going to do that every time. But if that parent only does it for the trial so they look good, you now have a kid who's in a class they don't belong in. I had a trial student that really stumped me. The kid had excellent pronunciation, spoke in full sentences. My name is Joey. How are you? I'm fine. Thank you. I mean, I'm looking at him going, why are you in 2-1? And we got to the part on A's and B's, and he could read all the letters. He knew them, but he didn't know the sounds of any of the letters. He didn't understand the concept of phonics. And so it would have been easy to be tricked. My perspective on that is it tells you very specifically. So I read in both the trial directions and in when you're selecting the level for the kid, very specifically everything that they're supposed to do. And I look for check. If they cannot do everything on that list, I will always place them lower. In fact, if I'm in any doubt whatsoever, I will place them lower. For the simple fact that we're setting them up to fail if we place them too high. If we place them too low, they'll get a great experience and they'll have tons and tons and tons of time to talk and free exercise and free speech. I mean, it's not like teachers aren't going to fill that time that we have left over. The second reason is parents will be far more excited to put their kid in a higher level than they would a lower level. It's far easier for me to go, parents, hey, your kid needs to be in a harder level. Like, oh, okay, we'll put them in a harder level. But to tell your parents, hey, you want to be in a lower level, that's a whole nother story. I actually happen to have several kids that are placed way too low for them right now, way too low. And their parents purposely keep them there. You know, I've talked to them. I've said, you know, it's way too easy for the student. They want the kid in the lower level so that all that extra time is devoted to conversational practice, extensions, reading. And we've been able to do wonders with these kids having that extra time to do those things. So my encouragement for you, as you evaluate students, is to reflect on that. Which error is going to set that kid up for success more? These guys are young, likely going to be in VIP Kid all the way through the end. And so we're not really in a hurry. And I've had to, because I tend to be pretty competitive, so I've had to check back and go, hey, we're not in a hurry. We're not in a hurry. I'd rather you get it right. And I've had parents ask me, should they put their kid in a higher level? And I said, well, you can. A lot of times the kid will be successful. You can do that. But I'd rather they get this right the first time, because life will be so much easier for them if we're able to do this. So that's my thought for the day, is to really stop and think about that and, you know, evaluate whether or not the kid is able to do that, because a lot of times they have really high skills in one area, not in other areas, and we want to set them up for success. Some thoughts for the day. I'm curious, what do you think? How do you view it? And how do you determine it? See you tomorrow.